So the engine's complete and ready to go into the car, but I'm having some compatibility issues with the clutch and the pressure plate and even the sensors. So unfortunately, another week goes by without getting this engine installed in the car, unfortunately. So today I'm just gonna share with you guys a couple tips and tricks that I use to get the new rear main seal installed. It's a little bit tricky, and then we'll go over the problems with this Patrick Motorsports Flywheel, or what I think is a problem. I'm a little concerned. So this does appear to be leaking, so I think I'm gonna pull that seal out and replace it with something new. Keep in mind that this seal is just a little bit proud of the case. So we'll try to put the new one in, flush, or maybe, yeah, just about flush. This one sticks out just a tiny bit. So there is a spring inside here that keeps tension on it. This is a Keiko seal, which is an aftermarket seal. So this has been replaced before. Here's the new seal. This is the L-ring, and it is brown and black, which I think is the best one. It's kind of like two different materials. So this is the best one. It's got the spring on the inside. The depth of this one is in inches 470. And the depth of this recess here is much more. .615. So you can definitely put this in flush, if not a little further than flush, and that should help it work its best. So having it flush means it's nice and even all the way around. You don't want to get it in crooked. And right now I'm just doing a trial fit with it in backwards so I can understand, how far this has to spread open and how much pressure is on this inner seal, because that's really what creates the seal right there. This guy opens up quite a bit. So of course it's going to go on this way, but we want to make sure it's got a lot of lube on it before we put it on. And this area between here is very clean. No sharp edges, nothing causing any kind of leak here. Everything's nice and smooth, including this little slot right here. It's nice and smooth where the case goes together. It's nice and smooth there. So I've double checked it with a mirror. I've looked at the top, cleaned out any kind of residue that was in there from previous sealants, and it's basically just nice and shiny aluminum. And the crank itself, it looks really nice. There's no groove or anything on it, so things are looking really good and also nice and clean. I'm going to go with a very light coat of grease on the crankshaft because I do not want the seal to run dry when it starts up. This engine has no oil in it, so it's going to take a little while to get oil pressure and for it to ooze out of this area. So this will keep the seal lubed up for the first few minutes, and it'll also help it go on easier. I'm putting a little bit on that flange so it doesn't tear when it goes over. Being careful not to get it on the aluminum, just on the crankshaft. And then it's the slightest amount of 1134 or 1184 right on that seam. And it's barely on there. It's a very light amount. I'm just rolling it on with a toothpick. And then the seal itself is it's very clean, and I'm just going to use motor oil on the lip. So this is going to be lubed up with just oil. And it's okay to use a lot of it. Fill up the back. Now I'm going to use a little bit of a solo cup or a plastic cup to help get it up over that lip, because we don't want to jar it over and have that spring pop off. You see how well that fits over the crankshaft? Lube up this cup, lube up the seal. One last time. It's going to slide right over. There's ridges on the seal, and we're just making sure that it goes in nice and flat. So I just have a block of wood, and we're just going to start tapping it in. It's got to go even though. I think the seal is in well enough. We can take this cup out. And now we can just drive it home. And I have this, this CV joint. This old CV joint is bigger than my normal driver kits. It fits on the seal just perfectly. So I'm going to use that to just whack it in nice and even. So now this tool is running into the crankshaft itself, but at least we know we have it nice and even. And just so you know, I smoothed out all these sharp edges, so I'm not cutting the seal when I'm pushing it in that way. So now we need to come up with something just a little bit bigger, or go back to the block of wood and just gently, you know, seat it all the way home. So by just tilting this block of wood, I can just inch it in. Just going with a little bit bigger angle each time on the wood. Okay, so now I'm flush with the case, which is a good thing. And I'm going to change to a different block of wood because this one's a little big to fit right there. So you can hear it hit the aluminum. So it's bottomed out on the aluminum all the way around. Now if I want to go in a little further, I can use the edge here to drive it in just a little bit further, because I know this seal can go a lot deeper than flush. So now I'm feeling, you know, maybe a 1/16 of an inch or something, a little bit less than a 1/16 of an inch, we're going to go in. It's actually only like maybe 20/1000ths of an inch less. That's about 1/2 millimeter, I think. So I think we're done here. We just have to pray it doesn't leak. It looks good. This outer lip is just kind of a dust seal, really. Kind of prevents grime from the clutch going in there. It's not really creating much of an oil seal. It's only that lip on the inside that creates the oil seal, so I think we're good. And if you want to know where to get the perfect cup, it's from Panera Bread if you're in the United States. This is the large size and it is a perfect fit. And it's very, very thin. You can see it's not even really round. It's kind of super squishy. Okay, I got the new flywheel and the old flywheel side by side. And this is the Patrick Motorsports lightweight one. I did a whole video on why this one's better with the rotational mass differences. But right now I'm just looking at where this pin is. So that's the pin that is important for the engine or for the ECU to know where it is in the combustion cycle. And this one has a similar pin, but it's a little bit smaller, and I'm noticing that it's in a little bit different location, which is a little bit concerning. This hole here is what indexes off the crankshaft. You go straight up and there's a flywheel bolt. And then you go over, between these two bolts is the pin. And you do the same thing on this flywheel. You go straight up from the pin, there's the bolt. Here's the second flywheel bolt or clutch bolt. And this marker is a little bit closer to this bolt right here. When I measure the distance to the marker, this is like 2.3, and this one is like, 1.96. It kind of seems like it would throw the timing off, and maybe Patrick Motorsports is playing tricks with the timing to maybe advance the timing, but I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to do some more research on that. But this is the correct flywheel. This is for this engine. It's a G50 flywheel. This one has the pressure plate on it. This one does not. But yeah, I'm gonna think about that one because this is how the ECU knows when to fire the ignition. And if it's in a different place, I think it's gonna fire the ignition at a different time. These are the sensors that held me up last time. They've both been replaced. They're brand new. The cylinder head temperature sensor was replaced some time ago. This one looks like it's in new condition. So in addition to this mark sensor location problem, there's incompatibility with the throwout bearing. So basically this one is a 32 millimeter inside diameter and the old clutch is a 33.5. So this will not physically go over the guide tube on the transmission. The two they won't fit. It'll only go in so far. The minute the guide tube hits this throwout bearing, it cannot go, the transmission will not go on anymore. So I can't even put the two together. And then I thought I would just go back to the stock system, but this is the original rubber-centered clutch. At least I think it's the original clutch because they don't really make these rubber-centered ones anymore. This one could disintegrate due to old age and the rubber can just fail and cause a lot of problems. So I'm not gonna put the stock clutch back in either. So rather than put this in the car, I really wanna understand the implications of the mark sensor and why it's off. So that's where I'm at, guys. Always hope to get more done, but I don't wanna do something wrong. And obviously the timing is super important on these computer controlled engines. It's not adjustable. The timing is controlled by the computer and it has to calculate where the crankshaft is in a cycle before it can do the timing. And I think that's a big problem. So stay tuned. If you have an answer for me, please leave it in the comments below, but we'll get it solved one way or the other.